Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of December, 2023, and this is the Cluster API office hours meeting. Cluster API is a sub-project of Kubernetes SIG cluster lifecycle, and as such, we follow the CNCF meeting guidelines, which basically means please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated. In other words, please be kind to each other, and if you'd like to talk, please raise your hand, and I will call on you. So at the beginning of our meetings, we like to welcome new attendees or new members of the community who would like to say hello. So if that sounds like something you would like to do, I will be quiet for a few seconds here, and please raise your hand and I'll call on you and you can say hi to everybody. All right, I am not seeing any hands going up, so perhaps everyone has already introduced themselves or would like to wait for another time. So we'll move on then. I don't think we have any open proposals to read out. Nope, no open proposals currently, so we will go right into the discussion topics. Stefan, you've got the first couple. It looks like they're pretty good, so please take it away.
Can you click on the first one? I don't know if I wrote much description there. So both of my points are basically just FYI. So the first one is essentially before this PR, when either the KCP or the machine set or the machine pool controller, when they were creating objects for a machine, they basically picked random names and they picked different random names. One example, so when the KCP controller was creating a machine object, a Kubernetes config object, and let's pick an example, a Docker machine object, it picked 3 different random names for, I think, no good reason. What we realized a few weeks ago when trying to debug some stuff on customer clusters, it's pretty tricky to map between all of those objects if they don't have the same name. And if there is no good reason to not use the same name, hey, why not just start using the same name? So what this PR is doing, it just basically picks a random name for the machine and then use the same name when it creates the corresponding Kubernetes config and the corresponding, in that example, Docker machine or Azure machine or whatever. Yeah, and they implement this for KCP, for machine sets, and for machine pools, it's slightly different. For machine pools, it's essentially only relevant with machine pool machines, which essentially creates a machine out of an infra machine. So let's say we see an Azure machine, then now the corresponding machine that we will generate will also use the same name as the Azure machine. So that's just meant to make the work of like operators, SREs, whatever, easier when you have to troubleshoot stuff. It was also possible before to map those objects, but it usually involved looking into provider IDs or looking into the refs in a machine, and that was just annoying for no reason. Yep. So that's all about that one.
Cool. That sounds like definitely a welcome upgrade there.
Yep. And that's a very small one. Maybe you can go at the file diff. You click at files changed. So essentially, a bunch of our controllers have corresponding event recorders. And I assume the names that we pick here, they end up somewhere in the events that we publish in those controllers. And basically, I just changed those 2 recorders for the cluster topology controller and for the KCP controller to be consistent with all others. So what we usually do is we have a so-called controller name for all our controllers that is usually just a lowercase of the kind of the object that we reconcile. Just the lowercase just automatically taken by controller runtime. And then the event recorder is usually just used like this controller name and then added the suffix dash controller without any sort of additional dashes or any other weird stuff. So I just changed here for consistency. So also just general FAI. I don't know if any info providers want to do similar stuff. We definitely will do it or already did it actually in CapV. Probably nobody really cares about this field in the events that we produce, but yeah, just for them, I make it consistent.
Cool. So it's like a good kind of like perhaps a suggestion to other providers just to take a look at this if they feel like, just making it a little cleaner, a little more consistent.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks.
cool. Does anybody have questions or comments about those topics? All right, I'm not seeing anything in chat or any hands going up. So thank you, Stefan. we will move on to Christian's got a topic, PSA here about providers. So please, Christian.
Yeah, in CAPV, we started to integrate case v1.29 into our end-to-end tests, and we are using kubevip during provisioning of the cluster and to load balance the kube API server. And we did hit 2 issues with kubevip and v1.29. Yeah, they are linked here. There are workarounds at the end of the issues in comments present. Both go back to changes in Kubernetes. One is related to kubeadm, and one is related to the kubelet. Yeah, just I don't want to lose much time going into details here, maybe, but if anybody is using kubevip and starting to work on v1.29 or with v1.29, it's highly probable that you hit these issues. So yeah, why?
Okay, great. And it's awesome to see the workarounds in there too. So if you're out there and you're using the latest 1.29 and you're using kubevip and cluster API, be aware of these things. All right, cool. Thank you, Christian. Stefan or Steven. Sorry.
I'm fine either way. Stefan is the German variant, but I'm fine. Just a related comment because I think we didn't really mention it before. Christian added test coverage for 1.29 on main branch and then release 1.6. So that's merged. CI is green. It will be officially supported in 1.6.1, which comes out in January. If I remember correctly, since the 1.6 release, we didn't merge anything to make that work. So technically, it should already work with 1.6.0. But the official support with the test coverage will come with 1.6.1 in January. Just a core copy, by the way. CAPV is, that we hit that issue in CAPV, so CAPV is a different story with kubevip, but in core copy, we should be good for 1.29.
Okay, cool. And actually, that was my language bobble there because I was I saw the next line item and it was I think this is Steven, not Stefan or Stefan. Do you have a preference, Stefan? Do you?
Oh, I really don't care.
Okay, so then Steven, is this Steven or Stephen or?
Yeah, this is Steven. Hey.
All right, awesome.
So I guess you can call me Stefan if you want, so we can easily separate,
Right, help to dereference. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. I think we got the naming solved. Steven, please take it away.
Yeah, these are both 2 quick ones from both release items, and I think Stefan actually might have helped me out with this one already. But this has just been open for a couple of weeks and would help to kind of streamline communication for updating the Slack group for the release team. So hopefully maybe Mr. Bobby Tables can help me out there. So yeah, maybe that's already kind of done. And then the second one is there's an item for release task, which is like removing deprecated code, and keyword searching can be kind of a exercise in futility for this kind of thing. So if anybody has ideas or candidates for things that could be removed for this next release cycle, please feel free to take a look. Or if you have feedback on better ways that we could kind of flag things for future deprecation or kind of viable pieces, for next release cycles that we could maybe improve the documentation around this, that would also be appreciated too.
Cool. Awesome. And so for anyone watching at home or watching here live, like if you have thoughts about the second one, like things that should be removed or even suggestions on how to make the process better, please leave a note on the issue or something and we can have more conversation there. All right, great. So that brings us to the end of our regular discussion topics, and I don't see any provider updates or feature group updates. I do see a hand raise though. So
Yep.
Stefan.
Just a quick comment about those 2 points. So the first one, I just assigned him because I saw him writing in Slack. So no guarantees if he has time or sees it or whatever. But I would recommend, if nothing is happening for, let's say, the next 2 weeks, so after New Year or something, just ping Mr. Bobby Tates in Slack or something. I think that will move it forward if it doesn't happen async otherwise until then. And for a second point, what I did was basically something like a grep for deprecated and then exclude API folders. That's not super great, but it gives a relatively short list. I don't know what we can do to improve the process further. Maybe an umbrella issue with stuff like, hey, those are the deprecations we have, and those are the versions when we can drop them, and then we just drop them when we hit those releases. Not really sure if that would help. In general, at some point, I can definitely do one round of grabbing for deprecated and answering on the issue, specifically for this case, for this release, to see if there's something that we should do for this release.
Cool. Yeah, I'll give that a shot, and yeah, appreciate the feedback.
Awesome. Thank you. Does anybody else have thoughts or comments about either of Stephen's topics here? Okay. Does anybody have an ad hoc or last minute topic that they didn't put on the agenda that they'd like to talk about now? Otherwise, we will begin our end of year holiday break season. I don't think there's any more cluster API meetings until next year. So
yeah, that's a good point. Should we, I mean, I'm totally fine with skipping the next one and I won't be around, but should we communicate this in some way by calling it here canceled and put it in the channel? that
is a good question. That's, you know. I guess, are there any objections to canceling the meeting next week? Okay, so no objections. We will cancel the meeting next week, but I have no control over the calendar, so I can't really do much there. But yeah, I hope someone's putting a note in the top that says we're off next week. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for adding the canceled note there. I guess we probably need to make should we send out an email to the SIG cluster lifecycle mailing list too, just for completeness sake? I don't know, Lubomir, do you have any advice on that, or?
SIG's projects usually don't send cancellation messages. They usually just cancel in the calendar, but it's too noisy. Too many people get the message. It's just better to have it in the agenda. People will know it's the holidays. So
okay, cool. All right, so we'll just announce it in the channel then. We've got it in the thing here. I guess have a great New Year's and holiday season for those who celebrate it, and we look forward to an awesome 2024 with the Cluster API community. Thank you, everyone.